People ask me how you got in the sales tax business. My answer is baseball. I'm Tom Alston. Arrow Marine Tax Professionals is my company. I've done 1,700 of these tax cases in California, and as long as you hire me before you take possession and follow all of my instructions, you'll never pay the tax. But how I got into this business, the true answer is the game of baseball. You want to hear the story? Here it is. My son Warren was 8 and he got into a little bit into baseball. He wanted to play. So I signed him up for Dusty Baker's uh, baseball camp. Uh, and it was one of those things that one of those leagues where the little kids were, if they got ball four, then they put the ball on the tee and they swung the bat without the pitcher. The pitcher stayed in his position, but they swung the bat. And I was shocked at how many people couldn't hit it. So one day their coach was out of town and he asked me to take it over. So I did. But before the game, I taught him a secret. I says, when you put the ball on the tee, turn it so you've got a target where try to swing and hit the ball right between the threads. I did that to try to get them focused on what they were trying to swing at because most people are playing a game without their attention on what they're supposed to be doing. And so my guys hit the ball better. And I also taught them how to steal the bases. And even in a league where you're not allowed to start running until the ball crosses the plate, our steal sign was if the catcher doesn't cleanly catch the ball. So if there was a wild pitch, you win. If the catcher missed it, you win. Because I knew that as a minute that the kids started running, everybody started screaming and yelling, and these are 8-year-old kids. Some probably were as young as 7, and maybe the old guys were 9. But the chance of a catcher picking up a ball and throwing it accurately, and the chance of another 8-year-old catching the ball and tagging you out was probably zero. At least that's the way that I treated it. So it could steal second. Then I found out you could also do the same thing to third. Third, because what was making it hard for the kids to focus on what was going on was all the screaming that was going on. It's kind of like trying to advertise during COVID. In fact, it's exactly the same thing. But anyway, I digress. So how I got involved in it is the guy that was the coach of this team that was helping with the team, I got to know him, and he was in the sales tax business. He had started the first company that represented California businesses when they were being audited by the state of California for their sales tax collections and making sure that they paid the right amount of tax. So I got to know him, and we created a friendship. All right. And then as we coached together, I think he was the assistant coach on that team. And the next year he took his own team and I came out and helped him. And we coached together for I think 1 or 2 years. And then he wanted to retire, ha ha, and make me the head coach. And so of course I said it because I wanted to be a head coach. And our relationship became even tighter and tighter. So then I got the bright idea of wanting to be more involved in baseball. So I started writing these letters to a magazine called Collegiate Baseball. This is going to take a while. So sit down, pour your beer or your soda water or your tea and listen because you asked, how did I get in this business? So then uh, I started writing letters about the NC2A because I think college presidents tend to think very criminally. And I think the NC2A treats its athletes very criminally. And that's just my opinion. I'm not God. I could be wrong. You can call me anytime you want and argue about it. I love to argue about baseball and colleges. So anyway, I I started writing these letters and he started publishing them. Then he asked me, he says, you want to write a column? Hell yeah. Hell, I can do that. I like to spout off about stuff when I'm pissed off. So I started doing that. And then at the same time, I owned the world's largest race car building company. And I got to the point that I was tired of being in that business, so I got rid of it. And to a degree, it got rid of me. But anyway, I digress. I sold the race car company, and a guy bought it from me and moved it. I think it's somewhere in the Chicago area. I was at my race car business was in Sacramento. So all this time I'm coaching with my friend. Then, because I'm getting tighter and tighter into baseball, and on my 100th birthday, I will tell you my attraction to baseball. If I was to tell you right now about why I like baseball so much, it'd be so out reality to you that you'd think that I'd lost my mind. So I will not. I'll tell you. I promise you, right after my 100th birthday, I'll make a video and tell you what my attraction to baseball is. I promise. Okay. So I was getting drawn into baseball, and then boy, this is kind of cool. And my son got up to where he was in, I think it was called Bambinos, was what some of you call Little League. And then my son got up into Babe Ruth, which is where you went from the 65-foot bases to the 90-foot bases. And I got to know all the Babe Ruth coaches. And they were all complaining bitterly about the high school varsity baseball coach. And whenever I find a lot of people complaining about someone, I want to get to know that guy because there's a reason. And the reason was he was very successful. And they all wanted to say how wrong he was, even though he was winning baseball titles. It just, again, I digress. So I walked on his field and I said to him, "I'm here to help. What can I do for you?" And he put me to work immediately. So that's how I got into high school baseball coaching. As I became the junior varsity coach and I ran the summer programs, because me being outside in the sun around a baseball game. In fact, if you notice my pink skin, is what I call baseball face. A little teeny bit of sun re-stimulates all that red and it comes back out. So anyway, the guy put me to work and I loved it. Asking me to run a summer program and a winter program was kind of like asking me if I wanted to go to Leatherby's and have banana splits all day. And so I was really falling in love with it, but I needed someone to help me. And my friend, who had been my assistant coach and at one time was my baseball mentor, was pretty good at teaching pitchers. So he came along as my pitching coach. He owned I think I've told you this earlier, he owned I think it was the first sales tax consultancy. And at the same time, I was winding down my enthusiasm level from being in the race car business, and I got rid of the race car business. And I went home and I wrote a couple of novels. I wrote 100 just short stories. I like that. I'm a very creative guy. At least I think I am. And I went home for a couple of years and then got really bored because the game wasn't big enough. I was making, $8,000 or $9,000 a month in multi-level marketing, and I was getting paid for writing my articles, and I got a contract to write a book with Simon & Schuster, which is still on sale at Amazon, called The Baseball Coach's Survival Guide. I co-wrote that with a guy named Jerry Weinstein, who is coaching in the big leagues now, I think. So anyway, just I forget about all this stuff, and then I'm trying to tell you about it, and it takes me up all these different little routes, all these little detours. So after about 2 years of being home and working out of my house, and I got bored. So I called my friend Joe, who had the sales tax business, and I said, "I'm really bored. Is there something I can do for you?" And he said, "Well, I'm getting ready to run a political campaign. Would you like to be my campaign manager?" And I said, "Well, I've never done that." So of course I said yes, because it's a new adventure, right? So I went into his office and I was just kind of looking around at stuff and saw that he had done a sales tax exemption on an aircraft that was owned by, I think his name was Greg Luckenbill, who was the guy that brought the Sacramento Kings to Sacramento from Kansas City. I asked him, I said, "How hard was this to do?" And he said, "It was pretty easy." And I said, "Well, why don't you do it?" And he says, "Well, that sounds kind of boring to me." He said, "Why don't you do it?" And I said to him, "Well, I'm not a detail guy. I'm not a college graduate." So of course I said yes. So we worked out this arrangement where I got 28% of the cash collected. So if we delivered a product and didn't get paid, I didn't get paid. I didn't want a salary. I didn't want benefits. All I needed was a phone and a computer. So he agreed to that. It went really well for a couple of years, and then I was doing in my own little aircraft division, because that's primarily all I did at that point was airplanes. And his business had been in business for around 20 years, and I think he had 5 or 6 different consultants. And I was doing 75% of the volume of his whole firm. And he developed amnesia about our payment arrangement. So I told him, I said, here's what we agreed to, right? No, I don't remember that. Okay, well, then I don't remember ever agreeing to anything with you, so I'm out of here. Goodbye. And he said to me, you can't steal any of my clients. I said, I don't have to steal your clients. I built the entire business. Everyone in that industry knows me because I'm always out in the marketplace, because you don't want to go out in the marketplace. There's a lesson there for you. Okay, so I don't need to take your clients. So that's how I got in the business. Baseball. And that's today's story.